Have you ever watched Attack of the Clones and gone, I wonder where this battle is taking place, or what this battle looks like on a map? Or maybe even wondered why Mace Windu was where he was and why Yoda was where he was? Or simply, where did all the clones go? Well, today I'm here to answer those questions and more as I break down the entire first battle of Geonosis, providing maps, statistics, and detailed accounts of everything we see on screen and off screen.
For the Republic!
The Battle of Geonosis is the first time we get to see the clone troopers deployed and marks the start of the Clone Wars. It is absolutely one of the most important battles of the entire war. So let's analyze it in as much detail as we can, starting with the story before it happened. So just as a little refresher for right before the battle, Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme had been captured and were being forced into a gladiator-style arena on Geonosis. This is also the same planet that would hold the largest droid factory and house the secret droid army. This is also where the entire Separatist Council was meeting during the Separatist Crisis, and as the Separatist Crisis was reaching its final days. Additionally, they were discussing things like plans for the secret space station, which would later be the Death Star, and we also know that the Republic was sending reinforcements to save the captured Republic forces. Now we know that the battle would break out right around when the Jedi launched their first attempt to rescue Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme. But before we actually get into the fighting, we have to talk about how many forces were on each side. To start, let's look at the forces of the Republic, who were launching the assault on the planet. We know that over 215 Jedi were at the battle, with the 2 Jedi in charge being Mace Windu and Yoda. We also know of one confirmed non-clone officer there, and that was Colonel Meeber Gaskin. Then we get into the main army of the Republic, the clones. We know that there were 192,000 clones split in half into 2 full battle armies, one led by Windu and the other by Yoda. Now there was a number of named clones at this battle, but some key ones are Commander Pons, Captain Rex, and a clone captain named Spider. We also know that there was at least 5 clone commando units there in canon, which were likely made up of 4 members per unit, but that's not confirmed. The only thing that was confirmed was the idea of 5 commando units. Now that was the entirety of the Republic manpower, but they also had a ton of vehicles as well, including 1,600 LAAT gunships, 400 LAAT-C carrier gunships, 2,160 ATTEs, 100 SPHAs, as well as a number of V-19 Torrents prototypes, as well as an unknown number of TX-130 Saber-class tanks. And of course, all of these forces were being carried in and operated out of 12 Acclimator-class assault ships. While these numbers may sound impressive, the Separatists had an army that was significantly larger. The Separatist army at Geonosis was absolutely massive, but it's important to start at the highest position and work our way down. And that is of course the head of the Separatists, Count Dooku. Alongside Dooku was the entire Separatist Council at the time. Unknown to many though, Grievous was actually at this battle as well. There was also a number of Dark Acolytes, one of which was named Severance Tan, though very little is known about these Dark Acolytes and their participation during the battle. Of course, there was also Jango Fett for part of the battle. Then you get into the main component of the Separatist army, the droids. There was 1 million B1 battle droids, 100,000 B2 battle droids, 3,000 droidicas, 15,000 dwarf spider droids, 4,100 hailfire droids, 7,500 homing spider droids, as well as a large number of Geonosians. And that's just the ground forces. They also had 286 Hardcell Techno-Union starships, 41 Diamond-class Commerce Guild ships, and 60 Trade Federation core ships. There was also an unconfirmed number of Geonosian starfighters deployed, but it's estimated to be in the thousands. Now I also want to highlight one key point of the droid army, and that was their 3 main staging areas and loading areas where they had most of their ships positioned. You had one of the areas here in the northeast, you had one of the areas in the southwest west type of area, and then you had one in the direct south. Now with both sides of the conflict established, let's get into the exciting part of the battle, the fighting. As many people will know, the battle will begin with an attempted rescue of Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme. 212 Jedi were deployed to first scout the area and then move in to rescue them in the arena. And actually, many Jedi believed that there would be no battle and that the Separatists would simply surrender when they saw the Jedi pull out their lightsabers. Simultaneously to this, there was a team of Jedi sent into the tunnels below and around the arena, attempting to disarm the enemies, but they were also ambushed by Geonosians, which forced many of them back to the arena. So as we know, the Jedi would draw their lightsabers and a massive battle would begin as the Separatists deployed their droid forces. And this is really when everything kicked off. 6 LAAT gunships were deployed to rescue those in the arena. One of them loaded up Yoda and Mace Windu as they shared a gunship, while Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme were also in a different one. Now at the same time this rescue was happening and the gunships were being deployed, the acclimators in space were performing bombardments on the Geonosian Hive launchers to prevent the Geonosians from deploying their fighters, or at least trying to. Now the main source book I'm using here, which is the Star Wars Complete Location Sourcebook, breaks this battle down into 12 segments based on what we see in Attack of the Clones, and they're also displayed on a wonderful map. So we're going to use those 12 segments to follow along as the battle takes place. Now those segments are as follows. The gunships fly in after the rescue, the Separatists try to escape, the Separatist leaders run from the arena, one of the 6 rescue gunships gets taken out, Mace Windu landing in his position, Mace Windu's assault on his position, Kit Fisto's assault, the landing of Yoda, the battle near the arena, the launching of the core ships and the leaders trying to get out, the fall of the core ships, and then Dooku's escape. However, it's not just enough to list these, so let's get down into exactly how each one happened and where they happened. Now 1 and 2 go together fairly well, as first we see the gunships leaving the arena while the majority of the Republic forces are being landed across the battlefield. The 6 LAAT gunships alongside a number of other ones begin their engagements on the Hardcell transports. It's important to note that not all gunships would land and not all of them would stay in the air. Nonetheless, this is essentially how segment 2 happens, as we see the Hardcell transport ships, which were lightly armored, attempting to retreat, while the core ships, which were well shielded, staying to try to get as many ground forces and cargo loaded up as the gunships began to engage the Hardcell transports. Now, as the events of 1 and 2 were happening, we also have the events of segment 3, which is where the Separatist leaders and Separatist Council were retreating from the arena using secret tunnels to get to the Separatist Command Center and Separatist Hangar location. It's here that they would discuss the number of issues they were facing on the battlefield, namely struggling to deploy troops due to the communications jamming. This is also where Poggle would give Dooku the Death Star plans. Despite all of their struggles, while the Separatists were loading up most of their ships, they attempted to deploy as many forces as they could, which leads us into segment 4. While the Separatist counteroffensive was slowly starting up, we see one of the 6 rescue gunships get taken out as Yoda and Mace Windu witness it happen. This is while they were en route to the main staging area of the Republic forces, and although this isn't a super major point in the battle, it does mark a key transition point in the battle as the Separatists begin their offensive. After witnessing the destruction of one of the gunships, Mace Windu and Yoda's gunship would land, namely at the Republic staging area. This is where Mace would get off the gunship and take control of things here. This is also where he was said that the Commando units were under his command. Now this is combined with segment 6, because Mace's largest objective was to protect the rear of the Republic forces, because although they had landed in a valley with hills all around them, they were still open to attack from many different angles. So because of this, you had the 3 key areas that the Separatists were deploying their forces for, and that were the core ships and staging areas I pointed out earlier. This is exactly why it leads directly into segment 6, where we see Mace Windu deployed with the clone troopers protecting the flank of the Republic staging area, and he's protecting the landing site from the northern droid forces as I mentioned earlier. Now this was just one of the many fronts, as another one of the fronts would be Fisto's assault. Fisto was deployed south of Windu's troopers in order to fight off another Separatist force coming from the southern landing site. He was supported by Obi-Wan's gunship that not only attacked ground forces here, but also was taking shots at the Separatist core ships. Following this, we would see Yoda landing to the northeastern side of the map where the Republic forces had set up a forward command center. Not only did this serve as the forward command center for the invasion, but it was also the location that the Republic SPHATs were being deployed and set up. Now the map that I'm using would show Separatist forces pushing in from the north of Yoda's position, but this isn't something we see in the film, so we can assume that this area was mostly secure. However, not all the fighting took place around the Republic staging area. Back at the arena, fighting had broken out as well, just north of the arena actually, and this area isn't something we got to see a lot before now. And while there was no significant figures at this portion of the battle, it does serve to show just how widespread the fighting was, but the battle was beginning to turn quickly for the Separatists. Segments 10 and 11 are the last 2 major segments in my opinion. The 10th is described by the sourcebook as seeing the Separatist Council ordering the ships to begin their liftoff no matter what, while at the same time they attempted to flee through the Separatist hangar near their command center. Now the idea of the Separatist Council was that they could get off the planet and get to their command ship somewhere in orbit, though not much is known about their command ship or what fleet they had in orbit. Now this leads directly into segment 11 where we see the SPHATs taking down the core ships while they were attempting to flee. And of course number 12 would be Dooku's escape. However, while these were the key moments we see on screen, there were also smaller stories and events that took place off screen that we learn about through other sources. Unbeknownst to many people, like I said, General Grievous was actually at the Battle of Geonosis. Specifically, he was stationed in the Stelgassan Hive catacombs. However, when the Separatist Council was retreating, he was there to protect them when a number of Jedi and clones stumbled into the caves. It was here Grievous was actually able to take out every single one of them and prevent the Republic from knowing that he even existed. The Clone Commandos also played a key role at this battle, though to a lesser extent than their legend story. The Clone Commandos were said to have conducted a number of raids on Geonosian launching hives in order to prevent them from launching more fighters. Now, it's stated this really helped the Republic gain air superiority during the early parts of the battle. However, we are not sure if these raids took place before or after Windu took command of the Commando units. Now, I do want to mention that both of these stories, those being Grievous and the Clone Commandos, have a much more fleshed out version of them in Legends, but sadly, not much of the information crosses over to canon. Nonetheless, as the battle came to a close, it's important to also look at the losses, because despite a Republic victory, both sides lost a lot of forces. Now on the Republic side, we don't get a lot of hard numbers in canon. We know that many Jedi were taken out, with the number being at least 5, although it is likely much larger than this. We also get a very broad number that thousands of clone troopers were taken out. Again, not super specific, but it's hard to know exactly how many were lost. Now on screen, we can see that there was at least 30 AT-TEs taken out and 3 LAAT gunships. However, for the Separatist forces, the losses were much greater. On the Separatist side, we would see countless numbers of battle droids and Geonosian soldiers being lost. Additionally, we know that many of their larger ground-based droid tanks were also taken out, but we aren't sure the exact numbers. The only thing we have exact numbers for are the ships that were escaping into space. We know that they lost 117 Hardcell class transports, with 169 of them escaping into orbit. We know they lost 5 Diamond class cruisers, with 36 of them escaping into orbit. And we know that they lost 14 core ships, with the remaining 46 making it into orbit as well. Additionally, we know that they lost Jango Fett. Now, as I mentioned before, this battle would result in a Republic victory, but it would also kick off the larger Clone Wars. And this is why the Battle of Geonosis stands as the breakout battle and one of the most important battles of the entire Clone Wars. And being able to take such an in-depth look at it is truly amazing. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you did, make sure to like and subscribe.